I had turned 26 2 weeks earlier, still walking around with the half-smirk of someone who thought her worst days were behind her. Devon's divorce papers had finally come through, and we decided to celebrate the way divorced people in Atlanta do when they don't want to go home. Shots, dance floors, bad decisions, and a 2 a.m. trip to Waffle House off GA 92. We were 3 deep in my old Civic. Me, Devon, and Kelsey. My phone had died before we even got back on I-75, but it didn't matter. We knew where to go. That particular Waffle House had become part of the ritual over the years. Post-concert eats, after-party pancakes, mornings we didn't want to end. But that night, as soon as we pulled into the lot, something felt off. It wasn't the place itself. It looked the same. Flickering yellow sign. Cigarette smoke hanging in the air like fog. But the energy was wrong. Like the world had taken a breath and was holding it. We slid into a booth by the wall, the seat sticky with soda or syrup. I didn't look close enough to know. The air was thick and too quiet. The jukebox wasn't playing. 2 groups were already inside. One near the window, rowdy, laughing, mid-argument over a plate of hash browns. The other was smaller, 2 guys and a girl by the jukebox, silent, watching. No one smiled. Not the waitress, not the cook, not even Devon, who usually couldn't sit still without cracking a joke. Kelsey tried to lighten the mood. "We're gonna die in here," she whispered, grinning like she didn't believe it. Nobody laughed. The cook, older guy with deep lines in his forehead and hands that moved too fast, glanced at us and then over his shoulder at the window group. He came over with menus but didn't bother asking for our drink orders. "If anything starts," he said under his breath, "just hit the ground, don't wait." I stared at him. "What do you mean, starts?" He didn't answer, just turned and walked back to the grill like he hadn't said anything. Devon raised an eyebrow. "Y'all want to leave?" But we didn't. Not then. Not yet. I wish we had. It all unraveled so fast I barely had time to breathe. 1 second, Devon was halfway through a story about his ex's new boyfriend being a walking haircut, and the next, a chair scraped across the tile. Loud. Final. The kind of sound that cuts through every other. Then someone screamed. A woman's voice, sharp, panicked. "Don't touch her." Another voice, male, angry and too close. Then a crash. Plates? A table? I couldn't see. I turned just as Devon stood up, hands raised. Hey, yo, chill out," he called. He always thought he could fix things, that people would listen to reason if you just spoke it calmly. That's when someone shoved him. He stumbled, his foot caught on the table leg, and he went down hard. The sound his head made against the metal edge of the table, dull, wet, final, still echoes in my memory. I froze, and then I saw it, just a flash, silver under the buzzing fluorescent lights. A knife. Someone shouted. Another crash. A gunshot cracked the air like the world splitting open. Kelsey didn't even yell. She just grabbed my arm and yanked me under the table with her. The tiles were cold against my palms. Someone was sobbing. Someone else was yelling, "I can't feel my arm." My side stung. At first I thought it was fear. Then I saw the blood blooming through my shirt. Just a graze, not deep. But it was real. Too real. I couldn't move, couldn't think. Just stared at the chipped linoleum beneath the booth like it would explain what the hell just happened. Then it was over. Sirens in the distance, slow at first. The shooter dropped his gun and sat down, calm, like he'd just finished his eggs. The kid with the knife was gone, slipped out the side door while no one was watching. He couldn't have been older than 19, didn't say a word the whole time. Cops poured in 10 minutes too late. Devon was conscious but dazed, blood running down the side of his face. Kelsey helped me press napkins to my side, her hands shaking. Nobody really understood what happened, just noise and blood and silence afterward. Later they said it was self-defense. Witnesses couldn't agree on who started it. The guy with the gun had a permit, a history of getting threatened, but that didn't make the shooting any less terrifying. didn't make the scream stop in my head. We gave our statements. I don't even remember half of what I said. Everything blurred together in the aftermath. Flashing lights, paramedics, someone from the local station asking if they could talk to us. I just shook my head and clutched the side of my shirt. The wound was shallow. A graze, they said, but it bled like it had something to prove. Devin ended up with a mild concussion and 7 stitches. He joked about getting a free breakfast out of it, but even he couldn't keep the smile up for long. Kelsey stayed quiet. She had this look on her face, like something inside her had just snapped loose and wouldn't go back. We didn't talk much on the ride home. I remember staring out the window at the highway lights, thinking about how random it all was. How fast the night turned. A Waffle House, a booth, that dumb, sticky seat, and now trauma stitched into our lives like someone else's scar. Weeks passed. The news cycle moved on. I didn't. I stopped going out. I deleted social media. Loud noises made me flinch. Even the smell of fried food made my stomach twist. I went back to work, but I was different. Less patient, more tired. My manager asked if I was okay once. I lied. The ringing in my ears wouldn't stop. Not a literal sound, but the echo of that moment. The scrape, the shot, the scream. Every time I heard bacon sizzle, I was back there. Therapy helped. A little. Not right away. The first few sessions were just me sitting there, saying nothing. My therapist was kind, patient. She asked the right questions. Do you feel angry? I didn't know how to answer that. I wasn't angry. Not at the shooter. Not even at the kid with the knife. I was angry at the randomness, the fragility of peace, the way a night meant for healing turned into something I'd carry for the rest of my life. Devin and I drifted. Not intentionally, just quietly. He moved to Savannah, said he needed a restart. Kelsey stopped replying to messages altogether. I heard she started going to church again. Said it made her feel clean. As for me, I stayed. Same apartment, same job. But I stopped driving past exit 92. I couldn't. Even looking at that yellow sign made my chest tighten. Sometimes late at night, I'd wake up sweating, convinced I'd heard the scrape of a chair. Sometimes I'd think, what if I hadn't ducked? It's been nearly 2 years now. I still haven't been back to Waffle House. Any of them. I can't. There's a new scar on my side, barely visible, but it's there. A reminder of how close it came, how fast life can tilt. People always say, you never expect it. But I did. Maybe not that night, not that place, but somewhere. The world's been wound too tight for too long. You can feel it in people's eyes, the way they flinch when a door slams. Sometimes I wonder if part of me is still there, under that booth, waiting for another chair to scrape. But I'm trying. Some nights, I write everything down. Like this. Not because I think it'll fix anything, but because silence makes it worse. And here's what I've learned. Peace is not permanent. It's something you hold on to with both hands. And when chaos comes, because it will, you have to choose. To freeze, to run, or to survive. That night didn't make me fearless, but it made me aware. The world can change in a second, and the ones who walk away aren't always the lucky ones. They're just the ones who carry the weight. I moved to Lebanon, Tennessee 2 months after burying my Aunt Lila. She'd been more mother than aunt, more stability than anyone else in my family. When I got the call she'd passed, stroke in her sleep, it hit like a slow collapse. She left me her trailer just outside town, a rickety single-wide tucked behind a line of scrub pine. Rent-free. No neighbors for miles. It felt like the first good thing to happen in years. I needed it. I was just a year clean. Off pills, out of court, off probation. And I thought maybe if I stayed somewhere quiet long enough, the noise in my head would stop. I got a job on the overnight shift at Waffle House on West Main. They weren't picky. Just needed someone who could show up, keep the eggs flipping, and not steal from the register. I told myself it was temporary, a bridge, something to keep me upright. That night was a Tuesday, and my manager, Rita, had called out sick, migraine, or maybe whiskey. It was just me and Jalen, the new dishwasher. Kid couldn't have been more than 19, skinny, nervous, always wearing headphones even when they weren't plugged in. He didn't talk much, and that suited me fine. We'd had a slow night. A few regulars came through around 9. Truckers, some college kids getting pancakes after a show. By 11:30, the place was dead. I started wiping down the booths and prepping the early morning batch of biscuits. At 11:58, I checked the time. I stepped out back to smoke by the ice machine. It's wedged between the dumpster and the fence line, humming like an old refrigerator on its last leg. Nothing fancy, but that's when I saw him. He stood about 15 feet from the ice machine, right near the edge of the trees. Pale hoodie, too big for him, sleeves hanging low. He wasn't moving, just staring, like he'd been there for a while, waiting. I squinted through the smoke. "We're closed inside," I called. "Takeout only." He didn't answer, just tilted his head, real slow, like a dog trying to understand a language it didn't speak. But it wasn't confusion I saw. It was amusement. Then he glided off toward the tree line behind the building. Silent. I stood there for another minute, cigarette burning down to the filter, trying to tell myself he was just high. Some teenager, maybe, or a drunk who wandered off the interstate. But the quiet didn't sit right after that. 20 minutes later, Jalen came out of the walk-in freezer looking like he'd seen something he couldn't name. "Yo," he said, voice low. "Did you prop open the back door?" "No," I said, frowning. "You know we don't do that after 10. He just nodded, slow. It was open, not cracked, open. A chill rolled through me that had nothing to do with the freezer. I pulled the security monitor up on the tablet behind the register. We only had 4 cameras: front register, cook line, parking lot, and the back lot where the ice machine sat. The front and cook line were fine, parking lot clear. But the back feed, just static, like old TV snow. No feed, no timestamp, just fuzz. I smacked the tablet. Nothing changed. "Must be busted," I muttered, trying not to let Jalen see my nerves. "Or someone yanked it," he said, like, covered it. We didn't talk much after that. He stayed in the dish pit, headphones on. I moved through the motions, restocking syrup, filling ketchup bottles, checking the waffle irons. Around 12:45, I was in the back supply closet grabbing more creamer when I heard it. A stall door creaking. The employee bathroom sits behind the supply room. Single toilet, flickering light, always smells like old bleach. I froze. We hadn't had a customer in nearly an hour. The front bell hadn't chimed. No one had come in. I stepped back into the hallway. "Someone in there?" I called. Silence. I pushed the bathroom door open, slow, and he was there. Barefoot, standing on the sink like a gargoyle, hoodie soaked like he'd just climbed out of a pond, skin pale, almost gray, eyes wide, unblinking, lips split in a grin that didn't belong on any human face. I stumbled back, slipped on the tile, and slammed the door shut behind me. "Jalen!" I yelled, scrambling up. "Jalen, someone's here!" He came running, holding a spatula like it was a weapon. But when we opened the bathroom door again, it was empty. Sink dry, no footprints, no damp spots on the floor, nothing. Jalen looked at me for a long second. "You good?" I nodded too fast. He didn't press, but he didn't laugh either. We finished the shift barely speaking, ears tuned to every little creak and hum of that haunted-feeling building. By the time the sun started bleeding into the windows, I'd already made up my mind. I wasn't coming back. I quit before the next shift, didn't wait for Rita to ask questions. Just dropped my key, said thanks, and drove back to the trailer like I was fleeing a crime scene. The roads were still wet from early fog, The sun hadn't cleared the trees yet, and every time I stopped at an intersection, I caught myself checking the mirrors, half expecting to see a soaking wet figure sitting in my back seat. When I got home, I locked the doors. Every one of them. I even shoved a chair under the handle just to feel better. I didn't sleep that day. Couldn't. The inside of my skull felt like a broken projector replaying him over and over. The stance, the grin, the way he whispered my name before I ran. He had whispered it. I know he had. I tried to reason through it. Maybe it was sleep deprivation, stress. I'd been working overnights, living alone, detoxing from more than just pills, trauma, grief, isolation. But there was something too specific about the fear. You ever feel a fear that isn't loud? Not the kind that makes you scream. The kind that sinks into your bones and just waits. That's what it felt like. Like something had looked at me, seen me, and now it was biding time. That night, I installed deadbolts, even on the inside. I dug out an old doorstop alarm from the back of my junk drawer, the one my aunt gave me after my first stint in rehab, and I slept with the lights on. Weeks passed. I got another job, stocking shelves at a 24-hour grocery over in Mount Juliet. Quieter, fluorescents always on, cameras in every corner, nothing ever out of place. But something stayed with me. At the end of each shift, when I passed the ice machine outside the break room, I checked its reflection. Not the machine itself, the reflection, just in case. And sometimes, just for a flicker, I swore I saw something move. A tilt of the head, a blur of wet fabric, a shadow that didn't match the angle of the light. I never stayed long enough to check. Jalen texted me once. Just a thumbs up emoji and you weren't crazy. I didn't ask for details, didn't want to know. Whatever I saw that night wasn't a person, not really. People don't move like that, don't grin like that, don't vanish without a trace. Some things just follow you, not like ghosts. Ghosts are sad. This thing wasn't sad, it was curious. I keep the lights on now, not because I'm scared exactly. Fear fades, but habits form. I check locks twice, keep salt by the windows, never take out trash after midnight. You learn to live with it. Some nights I wake up and think I hear him whispering again, right outside the trailer walls, right behind the sound of the wind. My name, soft as fog on glass. Maybe I imagined it all. Trauma does weird things to the brain, but imagination doesn't leave shadows. It doesn't make you bleed cold. I don't tell people this story often. Who would believe it? The man behind the ice machine, the barefoot grin. They'd laugh, write it off, call it trauma or detox or dreams. But if you ever work a night shift, anywhere, and you step out back for a smoke and the air feels too still, don't ignore it. My name's Dana. I'm 34, divorced, and I work, or worked, the graveyard shift at a Waffle House off Montague Avenue in Greenwood, South Carolina. Back then, I liked the quiet. I could come in at 9 p.m., pour myself a cup of coffee that tasted like burnt shoes, and work my hours without too much noise or need for small talk. The night shift drew a certain kind of person, truckers with long-haul eyes, couples mid-fight, drunks sobering up on scattered hash browns. None of them ever wanted much. And I liked it that way. It had been a hard year. I lost my baby in February, and my marriage didn't survive long after that. I didn't cry much. I just stopped talking to people. Grief is funny that way. It doesn't shout. It hums beneath your skin, real low, like a tune you can't quite place. So I worked nights. I drank coffee. I wiped down the same counter 600 times a shift just to keep my hands busy. That night, May 6th, it was slow, even for a Monday. One trucker was sitting at the corner booth, staring into his cup like it owed him money. I was behind the counter, organizing jelly packets by color because I couldn't stand still. Marcus, our cook, had just dropped a fresh basket of hash browns when the bell over the front door jingled. Kid walked in, couldn't have been more than 19. Pale, green hoodie, black jeans, beat-up sneakers. The kind of kid that looked like he hadn't eaten a solid meal in a few days. I gave him a nod, but he didn't look at me. Didn't even stop. Just walked straight to the bathroom and shut the door. Didn't think much of it at first. We get our share of folks coming in to use the facilities without ordering anything. Hell, half the time I'd pretend not to notice, but time kept moving. 20 minutes, then 30. I looked up at the clock, then back at the door. I walked over, knocked lightly. "Hey, you all right in there?" No response. I waited. Told myself maybe he fell asleep on the toilet. Wouldn't be the first time. But something about it didn't sit right. The silence felt heavy. I turned to Marcus. "Watch the floor a minute. I'm gonna check." That's when everything changed. That's when I saw something I still don't have the words for. The bathroom light flickered as I pushed the door open. There are 3 stalls in that Waffle House restroom, always have been. First 2 were empty. The third, stall 3, was locked. I stepped closer, knocked again. "Sir, you okay?" Still nothing. My stomach turned. Something in me said, "Don't open it. Just go call someone." But something else, a mix of worry and stubbornness, made me lean down and look under the stall door. That's when I saw him. Slumped sideways, one leg awkwardly bent under him, face turned toward the wall. His eye, his left eye, was wide open, not blinking, not moving. And in the socket was a spoon, a rusted metal spoon jammed in like it had been pushed in there by force. I stumbled back. "Marcus!" I yelled, my voice cracking. He came running, wiping his hands on his apron. I must have looked like I'd seen a ghost because he didn't ask a thing, just forced the door open with his shoulder. The kid was still breathing, barely, shallow, weak. His lips were pale and dry. There was a strange smell. Metallic, sharp, like blood, but colder somehow. Marcus leaned in, checking for a pulse. I grabbed my phone with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Called 911, dropped the phone, picked it up again. The dispatcher tried to calm me down, but my voice was all over the place. Within minutes, the ambulance lights cut through the windows. Paramedics rushed in, asked us to step back. One of them, tall white guy with a ginger beard, touched the kid's neck and went pale. "Vitals are all over the place," he muttered. "What the hell is this?" Then the kid moved, just like that, like waking up from a long nap. He mumbled something I didn't catch, something soft and slurred, like he was trying to remember the words to a dream. And that spoon? Gone. I swear to God it was gone. 1 second it was there, and the next it had vanished like it had never been in his eye at all. The medic sedated him and wheeled him out. No ID, no wallet. Nothing in his pockets but lint and a receipt from a gas station 2 counties over. The cops showed up about an hour later. One detective, skinny guy, too clean-cut to be pulling graveyard duty, asked me, "Did anyone else go into that bathroom with him?" I said no, but I didn't feel sure. Not because I saw someone, but because I felt something. Like we hadn't been alone in there. Like someone, or something, had been watching through the cracks in that stall the whole time. The detective came back the next day, asked more questions, same answers. No one saw the kid come with anyone, no one else entered the bathroom. But still, the details didn't make sense. For one, the stall was locked from the inside, but the kid had collapsed sideways, nowhere near the latch. He didn't move when we opened the door. There was no way he could have reached the lock from where he landed. Maybe someone was in there with him, the detective said, scratching his head. Hiding in the ceiling, the trash can, something. Or maybe he did it to himself and passed out. Meth, maybe. Bath salts. I nodded, but I didn't agree. Didn't say anything either. What was I supposed to tell him? That a spoon disappeared into thin air? That I felt something breathing on my neck the moment I stepped into stall 3? They showed me camera footage. Nothing useful. The camera facing the hallway caught the kid walking in, hoodie up, head low. No one behind him. No one came out before the ambulance arrived. "Where'd the spoon come from?" I asked. The detective looked at me. "What do you mean?" "That kind of spoon? We haven't used them in years. They were replaced after the remodel. This one was old, rusted, looked like something from the 70s. He blinked. "We didn't find any spoon." I stared at him, mouth dry. It was in his eye. "You saw the report. Marcus saw it too." He flipped through his notebook. EMTs didn't log it. No photos. No physical evidence of it at the scene. Nothing in the ambulance either. Marcus didn't want to talk about it after that. Said maybe the stress got to me. Maybe I imagined it. But we both knew better. That Friday I gave my notice. Couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that kid's eye staring at me. Not in pain, just empty. Like something else had moved in. I started dreaming about it. The stall, the spoon. But the dream was never the same twice. Sometimes I'd be in the bathroom, looking at my own reflection in the mirror, and I'd blink, and suddenly I was the one in the stall, lying sideways, unable to scream. Other times I'd hear whispering from behind the door. A voice like a child's but with too many teeth. It would say the same thing every time. He never left. He just went deeper. I stopped going out. Friends stopped calling. I was spiraling and I knew it. 2 weeks after I quit, Marcus texted me, "You still dream about it?" I called him right away. "You too?" He didn't answer at first, just breathed into the phone. I saw him again. "Who?" "The kid. Or someone like him. Came in last night, looked right at me. Same eyes." I pressed the phone tighter. "Did he say anything?" Marcus's voice dropped to a whisper. He ordered a coffee, sat at the counter, waited until the other customers left. Then he leaned in and said, "There's more in the pipes." Then he walked into the bathroom. "What did you do?" I didn't follow. I didn't blame him. I don't know what's in that bathroom. I don't know where the spoon came from. But I know this much. Whatever happened to that kid in stall 3, it wasn't human. It wasn't drugs. And it sure as hell wasn't something we could explain away with cameras and checklists. Some places get marked, like bruises on the world. Months have passed. I moved to Asheville, took a job at a diner that closes at 10. No more graveyard shifts, no more public bathrooms with flickering lights. I see a therapist once a week. Doesn't help much, but I keep showing up. I read the news sometimes, though I try not to. Just last week I saw an article, barely a blip, about a similar incident in Tennessee. Young man found in a roadside diner bathroom, unconscious, no ID, and a rusted spoon in his eye. They called it a prank, kids messing around, but I knew better. See, there are places in this world where things slip through. Not always with sound or fury, sometimes just with a whisper and a cold metal spoon. Sometimes they come through pipes, or mirrors, or the cracks in stall doors that never fully close. And when they do, they don't leave through the door. Not every shadow is harmless, and not every silence is safe. Some places carry pain that doesn't belong to the living. Always pay attention to the quiet things, because that's where the real monsters hide. Some stories don't make sense even years later. The details get fuzzy, people say you were just a kid, or it was the trauma, or memory plays tricks. But I remember what happened. I remember the smell, the lights, the way my brother's voice sounded when they pulled him out of that freezer. I was 9. That summer, my mom was barely keeping it together. Dad had just moved out. He packed a U-Haul on the 4th of July, like he couldn't stand to spend another firework with us. Mom got real quiet after that. Everything became easy options and TV dinners. So when Cody's 6th birthday rolled around, she didn't want the noise or balloons or screaming kids. She wanted quiet. She picked Waffle House, 6301 North Tryon Street. I still know the address. Funny the stuff that sticks. We got there around 7. It was muggy outside, one of those evenings where the air feels thick enough to drink. The The sky was doing that weird pink to purple fade. I remember it clearly because I was drawing it in crayon on my placemat. Cody was bouncing in the booth like a sugar rocket. Mom looked tired, like bone tired. She ordered coffee and barely sipped it. The place wasn't packed. A few couples, one guy in a suit eating alone, two teenage girls sharing fries and gossip. We got a free slice of pie for Cody because it was his birthday. Our waitress, a woman with a star tattoo on her wrist, lit a single candle and sang him happy birthday half-heartedly. Cody didn't mind. He loved attention in any form. Around 7:30, the jukebox glitched. It started playing this old jazz loop, smooth at first, but then it skipped. The same 5 notes over and over again. I remember Mom muttering, "That thing's busted," but she didn't get up. A light above the booth flickered. Then 2 more in the back hallway blinked out completely. That's when Cody said it. "There's a waffle man," he whispered, licking chocolate pie off his spoon. "What?" He pointed to the kitchen door. "A big waffle man." He waved at me. I laughed. "You're so weird." But his face changed. His smile faded. He looked serious in that way only little kids can get. Like when they say something and you don't know if it's nonsense or prophecy. "He had buttons," Cody said, "and no mouth. He said I could come help him make birthday cake." Mom wasn't paying attention. She was talking to the waitress again, asking for a refill or something. I looked at the kitchen. No one there. Just the silver door swinging shut behind a cook. But something about Cody's voice stuck with me. Like it wasn't really a joke. It only took 15 minutes for everything to unravel. 1 second, Cody was sitting next to me, dipping his finger in a glob of whipped cream. The next, he was gone. Just like that. No chair scrape, no goodbye, no running off to the bathroom or anything. I turned my head to answer Mom's question about whether I wanted more hash browns, and when I turned back, the booth was empty. I looked around like maybe he'd crouched under the table, but the space was clear. No shoes, no laughter, no brother. "Where's Cody?" I asked. Mom barely looked up. "What do you mean?" "He's gone." She sighed. "Honey, he probably just went to the bathroom." But something in her eyes changed, that flicker of panic behind tired lashes. She stood up quickly and called his name, loud enough for the whole diner to hear. "Cody, come back here now." No answer. I ran toward the bathrooms, but something made me stop just before the hallway. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement, a large shape disappearing behind a swinging door marked dry storage. I didn't think. I just followed. The door creaked. It was cold inside. Not air-conditioned cold. Wrong cold. Like basement in a dream cold. Dusty shelves stacked with syrup jugs, pancake mix, cleaning chemicals. "Cody?" I whispered. Nothing. Then I saw it. Behind the last row of boxes. A costume head. Big. Brown. Made of foam. A cartoonish waffle face with stitching for eyes and black fabric where a mouth should have been. I stepped closer. Inside the open mouth was a single child's sock, striped blue and white. Cody's. I screamed so hard my throat ripped. I ran, tripped, hit the mop bucket, and didn't stop screaming until I was back in the main room. The whole diner turned quiet. A few customers stood. The manager rushed over. Mom nearly tackled me. "He's gone," I cried. "He's in the back. There's a costume. There's a sock." People ran. Someone called 911. The cook swore no one had gone back there. The waitress said she never saw a costume, let alone a man in one. But I knew what I saw. The cops arrived fast. Sirens, flashlights, radios crackling. They searched the whole restaurant. Every door, every hallway, every box in storage. They found Cody 2 hours later, locked inside the walk-in freezer. The officer who carried him out was white as a sheet. Cody was shivering, lips blue, eyes glassy. When they asked him what happened, he kept whispering the same thing. He told me to wait. He said the cake was almost ready. Mom lost it, screaming at the staff, crying, holding Cody so tight I thought he'd break in half. They asked us again and again if we saw anyone, an employee maybe, or a prankster in a costume. But no one could explain how Cody ended up inside the freezer with the door latched from the outside. The storage room had no secret exit, no crawl space. The costume head I saw? Gone. The sock? Gone. All the cameras had glitched out between 7:30 and 7:50, showing only static and that weird jazz loop from the jukebox. Somehow no one believed us. Not really. They said Cody probably wandered back there, got curious, locked himself in, accidentally. They ignored the part where he said someone told him to wait. They said he was a kid. Kids make things up. But I know my brother. And I saw the way he stared at the birthday candles at home that year, flinching like they'd bite him. The lawsuit didn't go far. Mom tried, but the franchise's lawyers were quick and cold, said Cody was unsupervised, that the camera system was under maintenance, that the costume I described could have been part of a seasonal promotion. Mom didn't have the money to keep fighting. She stopped talking about it, put Cody in therapy, sold our house a year later. But me, I never forgot. I got older, moved out, got my own life. But the story haunted me. I'd see waffle mascots on cereal boxes and flinch. I'd hear that same 5-note jazz riff on TV and change the channel fast. Cody doesn't talk about it much either. He's in college now. Good kid. But on his worst nights, he still sleepwalks. Once, I found him standing in the kitchen at 2 a.m. whispering. He said to wait. He said to smile for the photo. I asked him once if he remembered the sock. He nodded, very slowly. He put it there, he said, so you'd know he was real. That still chills me. Last week I drove past that Waffle House. It's still there, still open, different staff, new sign, same bones. I pulled into the lot, didn't get out, just sat there staring at the front doors, wondering how much of that night was still trapped in the walls, wondering if the walk-in freezer still clicks shut the same way, wondering if somewhere behind those dry storage shelves, a mascot head still waits. Sometimes I think about other kids, other birthdays. If it ever happened again, if the birthday waffle ever found another one to wait for cake. I don't know what that thing was. A person? A spirit? Some twisted mascot brought to life by attention and belief? But I know it's real. I know it touched my life. And I know it almost took my brother. You can laugh. Say it's just a story. Say I was just a scared kid in a weird restaurant on a humid Carolina night. But if you ever go to Waffle House and the jukebox starts skipping, and your kid says he sees a man with no mouth, leave your food and go. Children don't always lie, and some stories, especially the strange ones, aren't made up. Always listen, even when it sounds impossible, because sometimes the monsters wear foam heads and promise cake. When the fire hit, it didn't start loud. It started in the back corner of the apartment in that stupid secondhand toaster Jordan had bought at a yard sale for $2. The kind with a fake chrome finish and a switch that stuck on occasion. I remember hearing the pop, like a fuse giving up, then smelling the wire burn. By the time I made it from the couch to the kitchen, the curtains were already curling black, and Jordan was yelling from the shower. We lost everything in 12 minutes. That was November 7th, 10 days before the night I still think about, whether I want to or not. Jordan's cousin Reese took us in. His trailer sat on a patch of dead grass out in Baytown, Texas, about half a mile off the service road. We had one mattress between the three of us, no working AC, and a busted TV that only got weather alerts and some low-budget televangelist channel. But the door locked. That counted for something. I needed a job fast. Not for pride, not even for rent, we weren't paying any, but because every time I sat still I'd start sweating, like I could still feel the heat in my lungs. So when I saw the "Now Hiring Night Shift" sign at the Waffle House off exit 245, I walked straight in and asked for the manager. The guy didn't even ask about experience. "You know how to shut up when it's slow?" he said, barely looking up from a clipboard. "Yeah." "Can you lift 30 pounds without crying?" "Sure." He handed me a shirt 2 sizes too big and said, "You start tonight." And just like that, I became the 11 p.m. to sunrise guy. I spent the first couple nights wiping syrup rings off laminate tables and pretending to be invisible while teens dumped ketchup on their waffles and truckers tried to nap with one eye open. It wasn't glamorous, but it gave my hands something to do, which helped keep the fire away. Jordan said I was quieter now, that I didn't laugh the way I used to. I told her I was just tired. She didn't believe me, but she didn't press. Then came November 17th, a Friday, the night I realized some people don't survive losing everything. Not really. Some stay walking, stay breathing, but something else inside burns out. I thought it had just happened to me. I was wrong. It was just after 10:45 when he walked in. The chime above the door was broken, so I didn't even notice him at first. But then I caught a reflection in the toaster near the counter, something that didn't belong. Man in a navy blue suit, shirt unbuttoned at the collar, no shoes. He walked in like the floor owed him something. Every step slow, deliberate, the kind of walk you see in funeral processions or war movies. He smelled sharp, like gin left open in the sun. I was restocking the soda cooler behind the counter when he sat down, right in the middle stool. Didn't look at the menu, didn't ask for coffee, just sat, staring at me. I tried to ignore it. You get weirdos on night shift, and rule number 1 is don't poke the bear. He waited, just watched. Then finally he spoke. "You ever lose everything?" I glanced at him. His voice was deep, steady, didn't slur. "Excuse me?" I said. He leaned forward, elbow on the counter like we were old friends. "You look like you have. People with fire behind their eyes always do." I didn't know what to say to that. I hadn't told anyone here about the fire. Not the manager, not the cook, not even the guy who sold me socks at the gas station across the lot. I nodded barely. He smiled. Not kind, not crazy. Just sad. "Then you get it." The cook, Randy, stepped out from the back with a fresh tray of hash browns. He gave the man a look. "You want something to eat?" The man didn't move. Then out of nowhere, he slammed his fist on the counter, rattling the syrup bottles. "She left me," he shouted. "Took the car, took the damn dog. You know how that feels?" "Sir, I'm gonna have to ask you—" "Don't you dare tell me what to do," he growled, grabbing the butter knife from the napkin holder. Before any of us could react, he pressed it against his own cheek, dragging it down just enough to draw blood. "You want a show?" he said, eyes wide. "I'll give you a damn show." Randy backed up fast, nearly slipping. I stepped away from the counter, my hand fumbling under the register for the emergency call button. The man threw his coffee, scalding, fresh coffee, across the counter. Most of it hit the back wall, but some splashed Randy's arm. He yelled and dropped the tray. "Cops are on their way," I said. The man stared at me. "Good." Then he sat back down, calm as rain. 6 minutes later, the police came. 2 cruisers, no sirens, just flashing lights and tired eyes. The man didn't fight, didn't yell. He let them cuff him like it was a favor. One officer gently pulled the butter knife from his hand like you'd remove a toy from a sleepwalker. They talked to him for a bit, then radioed something back to dispatch. One officer came over to me while I tried wiping up the spilled coffee and adrenaline. "His name's Daniel Price," the cop said. "Former pastor from Houston, got evicted last week. Wife left him, lost custody of their kid this morning." The officer shook his head. "Poor bastard's been bouncing around truck stops for 3 days. Told us he just needed someone to listen." I didn't know what to say. Pastor? He hadn't said anything about God, not one word, but maybe he didn't need to. Randy was still icing his burn with a wet towel. "That guy wasn't drunk," he muttered. "He was drowning." We closed up early that night. First time I'd seen them shut the lights off before 5 a.m. I rode my bike back to the trailer without speaking. Jordan was asleep when I got in. I didn't wake her. I sat on the floor for a long time, just staring at the wall. All I could think about was his eyes. That moment before he yelled. How they looked so much like mine had in the mirror last week, like something behind them had gone hollow. I asked for a shift change the next morning. Morning crew only, I told the manager. He gave me a look. You good, man? I didn't answer, just stared at the floor until he nodded and scribbled something on the schedule. Jordan noticed the difference right away. Said I was more there, but also more distant. Like someone had flipped the switch back on, but the current wasn't right. I didn't argue. I didn't have the words for it. It's a strange kind of damage, what that man left behind. It wasn't trauma like the fire, loud and hot and bright. It was quieter, slower, like rust creeping over something that once worked. Some nights I thought about going to see him. I asked around. Turns out he got placed in a rehab shelter run by a small church. I never went. I wasn't scared of him. I was scared I'd look into his face again and recognize even more of myself. It's been 4 years now. I left Baytown, got a warehouse job in Beaumont. Jordan and I split eventually. No big drama, just quiet mutual burnout. She said I stopped laughing again. Maybe she was right. I still drive past that Waffle House sometimes, off exit 245. I think the manager still works there. Place hasn't changed much, but I never go inside. I haven't eaten eggs since that night. Not because of what happened exactly, but because every time I smell them, I think of that man. That man who lost everything, who cracked open like a rotten shell in front of us and bled his grief all over the tile. And the worst part? I understood him. Fire doesn't just take your home. It takes the map of who you thought you were. Sometimes all it leaves is a reflection in a window, a face in a diner, a butter knife in your own hand before you realize you're gripping it too tight. I wasn't supposed to be there. James and I had a silent rule. No late-night food runs without the other, especially not to Waffle House. He'd worked nights security for years and knew how breaches in routines attract odd attention. But he was out of town on business and I hadn't eaten all day. I told myself this would be quick. A cup of coffee, a plate of hash browns, back home before midnight, everything normal. It was just past 11:30 when I pulled into the lot of the Waffle House on the outskirts of Macon. The place seemed half empty. 2 SUVs and a faded sedan under flickering yellow lights. Inside felt colder than usual. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed overhead in erratic pulses. The booths around the perimeter were full of shadows more than patrons. I chose a seat at the far end of the counter, furthest from the door. The waitress, maybe in her early 40s with tired eyes and drawn shoulders, moved slowly. She didn't say much, just nodded. I ordered hash browns done scattered, smothered, covered, and 2 eggs, over easy. I tried to focus on my phone, texting a friend to let them know I was okay. But every time I raised my head, I caught movement from the corner booth. 3 men sat there, all wearing black hoodies. Something about their posture felt synchronized. They weren't talking, just stared. Their heads tilted at the same angle, elbows propped on the table, hands clasped. Even their breath synced to the buzzing lights. I tensed. I looked away, and every time I looked back, they were staring at me. An empty coffee pot perched behind the counter. Steam swirled in its spout like ghosts. I texted James, "Just grabbing something quick, I'll be home late." No reply. His flight must have left already. I tried to concentrate on my food, but the weight of those 3 men was a physical force pressing down on my shoulders. I arranged my napkins, shuffled my feet, counted my breaths. I paid before my food was handed over. I didn't trust myself to eat in the building. As I stood, I heard one of them mutter, low enough I almost didn't catch it. "She doesn't wait long." I froze for 1 heartbeat. Then I hurried out. The door was heavier than I remembered, like the building exhaled as I stepped into the night. Darkness rushed over me like water. The lot looked empty except for an orange glow from a single street lamp. And there, near the dumpsters, stood a man in a long coat. Pale face, slick, dark hair, stature too tall, almost oddly thin, He wasn't there 5 seconds earlier, and once I saw him, I couldn't unsee him. I slipped toward my car, trying not to stare. My chest thundered. Good instincts, freeze or bolt, said just get in and go. One of the corner booth men followed me outside. I heard his footsteps through the night stillness. I kept my head down, pretending not to notice. He stopped just inside the front entrance and whispered, no louder than a breath, too soon. My heart bottomed out. The whispers felt too synchronized. They knew me, knew I was alone, knew I left early. I got in the car, locked doors, then looked back. All three men stood exactly in line under the sign, arms at their sides, completely still. No blinking, no shifting, just silhouettes in the flickering sign light. I backed out slowly, checked rear view. There they were, still standing. I kept driving, leaving the building behind, but I didn't breathe until my home stretch, 3 exits down highway. I didn't tell James. It felt foolish without video or second witness. I lied and said I felt sick, skipped dinner, just wasn't hungry. He texted me concerned emojis. I sent a heart back and didn't mention any of it. But that night I had the dream. Yo, I'm back in that booth. The lights buzz slower in dreams, deeper. The 3 men sit opposite me, hoodies up, faces blurred. The waitress brings coffee but never serves it. And I sit frozen. Then someone stands behind me. My breath catches. They lean in. I feel their cold hair brush the back of my neck. Whisper, she came back. Then the hoodies lean in too. I can smell coffee and fear and gutter water. I wake up choking. Next morning I feel hollowed out, too tired for normal life. I spend the day avoiding mirrors, checking locks. Every time I close my eyes, I taste that diner. I tried to retrace my steps. Google finds no reports, no missing persons, no footage, no news. The Waffle House is just a location, nothing more. I tried calling the store. Manager said, "Lady, we close at 1. Night crew gone by 2. I said no more. Days passed. I started going to therapy more often. I thought rationally, maybe it was just stress. I had a deadline at work, James's trip stress, not eating proper meals. But the synchronized posture, the whisper heard only by me, it wasn't stress. It was something else. I decided to see someone, a local historian who tracks urban legends, haunted places. She looked over the Waffle House hardware store lot, highway embankment. She asked about strange events before, after. Any more sightings? Unexplained deaths? People missing? I said no, but didn't mention the whisper. She told me this. Somewhere along Macon's highway corridor decades ago, there was a house fire. A family of 4 died. 1 daughter escaped. But locals say she returned, not to visit, but to wait for someone. They said she would stand by the diner late, looking for a companion. Legend said those who saw her faced illusions, others standing, staring, whispering lines they knew were about them. And if they were alone, the whisper would come, telling them they came back too. Googling that, I found a tiny burial record for Iris Harrow, died 1974, intentional self-immolation. No notice, hardly anything. A photograph, grainy black and white girl about 9, standing in front of a burnt trailer. The dress looked familiar. I couldn't sleep again. Each night I relived the booth, the flashlight hum, the whisper. I stopped going out late, stopped answering texts after dark. It's been 2 months now. James came home. I told him I overreacted, ate right, took melatonin. He hugged me and said, "Whatever helps you sleep." But I'm not sleeping. I drive past that Waffle House sometimes. Lights on, seats empty, night brewed under fluorescent clouds. I tell myself not to look, but I always do. And every time I see 3 figures under the sign, always still. Sometimes I bring my phone, take a quick picture, grainy, fuzzy. I see nothing, but I feel something. I feel the whisper waiting. I don't go inside anymore. I wouldn't go if James were with me. I tell him I'm not hungry. He nods and offers to bring me pancakes in the morning. I still have the dream. Tonight I'll lie in bed and wait for it. The booth, the huddled men, the girl's voice behind me. She'll lean in, she'll whisper, "She came back." Some places hold memories that aren't ours, echoes of pain, grief, broken promises. And if you return at night alone, those echoes will notice. Don't go back to places that feel watched. Trust the whispers you can't explain. They might be telling you to leave and never return. I didn't want to go. Church ended late. The sun had reached full glare and I just wanted to go home. Mom, though, was set on a little reward for the twins. Good behavior pancakes, she called it. So there we were, pulling into the Waffle House just past noon, my 13-year-old self flicking eyes over my flip phone. I was too old for syrupy bribes, too bored for Sunday small talk. The diner was slammed, plates clattered, soda poured, people finished morning shifts. The bacon scent clung heavy in the air. Syrup pools reflected the ceiling lights and my sisters shrieked about their pancakes. I sat by the front window, earbuds in, pretending to text someone. That's when I noticed him. Tall, bleach blonde, skin too tan, hair slicked back like he'd stepped out of a glossy magazine. He worked behind the counter, flipping orders, but he kept glancing in my direction. Not directly, but like he knew I was there. I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying not to feel his gaze. He moved closer, wiping his hands, then slipped around the counter and walked toward our booth. My mom was mid-scoop of syrup, my sisters squabbling over sausage. He leaned in, shoved something in my hand. Game tokens, a handful of little plastic discs with dollar signs, casino-sized. I blinked. "We don't do games here," I mumbled. He grinned, too wide, too hungry. "Not the kind you think." My heart fluttered. "What do you mean?" He dropped his voice low. "Truck's out back, if you want to win something real." Seconds later, he ducked back inside, sliding behind the counter like he belonged. My chest rattled. Mom looked up. I tucked the tokens into my pocket, shrugged sheepish. "Some kid gave them to me." She smiled indulgent. I forced a laugh. After we left, I tucked the tokens into the glove box. Why did he choose me? I was just a kid at an overpriced pancake place, bored and quiet. But his token, his look, it felt like he saw something worth talking to. I lied about the tokens for sure. Mom asked later. I played dumb, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. Those wordless seconds between his last syllable and the trucks out back echoing in my head. That night, I powered on my ancient desktop, logged into AIM, old school, wondered if he'd reached out again. I should have deleted the tokens, thrown them in the trash, but I kept them in my sock drawer because they scared me. Then, a ping. No name flashed in my buddy list. The message read, "You looked right at me. That means you're curious." I stared at the screen until my fingers trembled. I typed, "Who is this?" Nothing. I deleted the message, blocked no name, and shut down the computer. But I didn't sleep. I lay in bed. Token shadows under my pillow felt heavy, like they carried the promise of something I didn't want. Next morning, I tried to act normal. My phone died halfway to school. I reused a school laptop. I couldn't log in fast enough before the principal called me to the office. "Your mother called. Saw something odd out front yesterday." My heart stopped. My mom told them about the tokens. The principal promised to call the police. I felt like crying for two reasons. First, because I didn't want police involved. Second, because I thought someone might come for me. I'd expected more follow-up from school or law enforcement, but nothing happened. No calls, no questions. The principal said I'd done the right thing. Days passed, morning routines continued, until the afternoon I got off the bus and almost ran into it. His truck, parked across the street from our apartment. Rust spots, cracked windshield, faded bumper sticker reading, Waffle House family. Exactly like the man had said, something real. I froze. My breath hitched. My mom rushed out when I texted her. We called the police. By the time they arrived, he was gone. No footprints, no note, no sign. Just the truck with the wiper side clue, a single game token wedged between the dash and the seat. I snapped the photo and sent it to the detective. He looked at me, sympathetic but distant. He called the Waffle House. The manager said they'd let the guy go weeks ago for boundary issues. They couldn't confirm his identity. No charges stuck. Misunderstanding, they said. He waved me off. The detective patted my shoulder. Kid's imagination. He stashed the token as evidence and disappeared. I went home feeling smaller than my 14-year-old self ever had. Nothing about his gaze or whisper or appearance in my life made sense, but the token remained in my backpack like a ticking timer. My junior year loomed. School, friends, soccer, life went on. I buried the token in a drawer. But every time I turned the key, I remembered his grin. He texted me again. Curiosity bites. This time it wasn't AM. Came through a burner number. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I texted, "Who are you?" No reply. I told Mom I changed my number and wasn't hungry for weird episodes. At night I replayed it. The diner, the tokens, the truck looming across the street. I envisioned his long coat ruffling in windless streets. I saw him slipping tokens through glove boxes, waiting for curiosity. It felt like manipulation, but also a challenge. I thought maybe it was about power. Maybe he found kids' easy marks, tiny hungers, bored minds. Maybe he wanted to show he could pierce the ordinary. Senior year came. I grew taller, smarter. I kept my phone lock codes tighter. I refused to go near that Waffle House again. I kept the tokens locked away, only bringing them out sometimes, touching the ridged edge, reminding myself I escaped. When I left for college, I mailed them back with an anonymous letter. Stop. I never saw the truck again, never got another text, never saw his face. But I still remember his grin. More than that, I remember how easy it was to feel seen, to feel targeted. He didn't say much, but his presence taught me that ordinary places can hide strange people, and small tokens can carry big threats. Trust your instincts, even in mundane places. If a stranger offers something strange, especially to a kid, it's not curiosity, it's manipulation. And sometimes, the scariest people are the ones who whisper, but don't need a megaphone. I had just finished my last college exam, and I drove home in that strange post-test fog, muscles on autopilot, mind still tangled in calculus. The clock read 11:45 p.m. when I stepped off the interstate into a small town so nameless I couldn't tell you what state. The shadows of trees leaned against empty buildings and streetlights blinked half-heartedly. My phone glowed 2% before it shut off, and I pulled into a Waffle House 2 exits down. Open late, warm inside, coffee guaranteed. The parking lot was nearly empty except for a dusty black sedan with no plates. I shrugged off the uneasy sensation settling in my chest. Late night drive, odd cars, nothing new. Inside, the diner sat under cold fluorescent bulbs, half lit with humming fans and the scent of bacon laced with grease. A waitress, mid-40s, with red-rimmed eyes, smiled wearily when I ordered coffee to go. I told her where I was heading. "Long haul home, sugar?" she asked, voice soft as vinyl on old chairs. "Yeah, state line's another 50, I lied. "Drive safe," she said, pressing the cup into my hand like handing off a lifeline. 5 minutes later, I was back on the road. I glanced at the mirror and spotted the sedan pulling from the lot. No headlights, just a dark shape that seemed glued to my tailpipe. I told myself I was imagining things through a fog of exhaustion. But as I merged onto the highway, mile marker flashing past, that same dark sedan floated behind me. No braking lights on curves, no flash of metal in headlights, just a lingering shadow in my rearview mirror. I shifted lanes. It stayed. I sped up. It kept pace. My pulse thumped hard. I pulled off at an exit and navigated a grocery store parking lot expecting a loop around, but instead the sedan followed, parking 5 spaces away. 3 men stepped out, not running, just stepping. One draped in a work jacket, another tall and lean, the third shirt loosened at the collar. They stood there, silent, waiting. My brain screamed, "Don't do this," but sleep-deprived adrenaline let fear twist logic. I slipped in behind the wheel and peeled out in second gear, tires squealing. I almost jumped my heart through my ribs when blue and red lights flashed ahead. I slowed, signal on. A sheriff's cruiser sat behind the on-ramp. I turned and flashed hazard lights. The cruiser followed while I drifted onto the ramp. I pulled up beside the driver's window. The man wore a weathered uniform and friendly eyes. I breathed into the silence for a moment before blurting out, "That black sedan, it's been following me for miles." He nodded, exhaled slowly. "Get in. I'll take you down the road a piece." I climbed in, trembling. He pulled some paperwork from his door pocket. No badge, no name tag. Just the rolled papers and that confident quiet. Behind us, the headlights of the sedan lingered at the lot entrance for an agonizing second, and then they vanished. We drove for 10 silent miles. I studied his profile. Jaw set firm, eyes even. He didn't ask questions, didn't flick the radio on. The road stretched out under yellow reflectors and tall pines, and I realized I'd never felt safer. He pulled over near a rest area shelter. He stepped out slowly, walked to my window, tapped the glass. I lowered it. "You're safe now," he said. "No badge, no car number, just a uniform. But next time, don't stop in towns where no one knows your name." He smiled, gentle, practiced, and returned to his cruiser. I watched his taillights fade in a long red blink. I sat frozen. Eventually, I started the car and headed home, eyes hard on the spool of road. At dawn, I searched online, police blotters, department names, even the rest area map. Nothing. No record of a deputy, no plate number, no jurisdiction that matched. Just miles of highway and a man who saved me. I reached home after sunrise. My bedroom greeted me with the bright sting of early morning light. I collapsed into bed, not able to sleep, but not able to wake again either. My roommate, Jess, knocked gently and asked if everything was okay. I said yeah, but she still worried. Class began Monday and reflected in daylight. I felt less terrified and more thankful. Still, there was a lingering tension, like someone else's glove in my pocket. During breakfast at the cafeteria, I nervously told an older friend about the night. She leaned in, eyes curious. "Did you get a badge number?" "No." "A name?" "No." "Why did he say, 'towns where no one knows your name'?" I shrugged. She frowned but left it at that. I tried to shake it off as a hallucination on the edge of exhaustion, but every time I closed my eyes I saw the dark sedan. Behind me. Doors ajar. Men steps away in black jackets. Monday night I sat in class too alert to focus. Every time I reached for my phone I felt a pang of panic. What if they followed me to campus? I avoided late-night study sessions, took campus security shuttle rides even across daylight hours, kept curtains drawn at home. Tuesday afternoon, I walked past a campus mailbox and spotted a sheriff's cruiser parked with no one at it. My heart pounded, but then I realized the department there was over 40 miles away. Someone just doing their job. I exhaled. Wednesday morning, I found a small folded card slipped under my door. Plain white. Corners crisp. No handwriting. Just a single word typed in blue. Safe. My blood froze. I rifled through my pockets. No fingerprints, no crease marks. But there it was. Safe. And a line of ink that read like a vow. I didn't sleep Wednesday night. I scoured online. Papers where local sheriffs were listed. None fit. No badge numbers, no details matched. Just a generic profile, no trace of a real man. Friday afternoon, I stood by the window in the library, braces in my fists, staring toward campus roads. My phone dinged. A message. You drove past woods last night. Did you feel eyes on you? I dropped the phone. No name, no signature. My palms went cold. Why was this turning into a game? Who was playing? I left the library and tried to laugh it off. I bought coffee at the student union. I bought dinner at a diner near the freeway but ordered takeout and left before closing time. I watched for shadows in dark windows. Saturday morning, Jess asked if we could go brunch with her cousins. I went, and for the first time in days, felt close to normal. The three of us talked under sunlight. Birds chirped outside. Everything felt safe. I pushed the incident into my mind's back drawer. That night I drove home late again, this time consciously avoiding highway stops. Coasted down side roads, kept the headlights moving in my mirror. Sleep caught me halfway home. When I woke, I was on the edge of suburbia. No sedan, no lights. I breathed easier. Sunday brought a text, only 2 words. Still watching. The message arrived at 3:17 a.m. My phone flashed the next morning, unknown number. Jess saw me shaking. I showed her. She grabbed my hand. "This isn't normal," she said. "We go to campus security." We drove to campus security office together. Officer Green, a real badge, real smile, listened carefully. He typed notes. He took screenshots of messages. He asked about plate numbers, descriptions of cars, men. I rattled off everything. Dusty black sedan, no plates, no headlights, the vanishing sheriff. He frowned, paused. "Have you felt safe tonight?" he asked. "No," I said. "Every shadow, every red light. I think someone's waiting." He told me, "Keep a record. We'll review cameras on campus. These roads sometimes cross jurisdictions." He promised he'd help. For the first time, I felt supported, not lonely or hunted. I walked out with a sense of resolve. The next night, I drove with Jess in the passenger seat. She scrolled campus manuals, maps of patrol routes, and shone a dash light behind my seat. We joked, but the joke was tight-edged. We parked near the student center. No sedan, no cars idling. Later, as we walked to my door, we noticed footprints in the dewy grass leading from the road. They trailed up the sidewalk, stopped at my door, and disappeared. No record of shuffling leaves, just footprints. They started outside the reach of campus surveillance and led here. Jess called Green, and he came over within minutes, flashlight scanning. He lifted a foot, paused. The print matched the sole of a sheriff's cruiser tire. The next day, Green pulled logs. That cruiser hadn't passed by. There was no unit matching the description in the county records. That cemented it. There was no real sheriff. Someone played both sides, echoing comfort on the highway and threat at my doorstep. I stopped driving alone at night. How could I? I moved to a different apartment, on campus, with roommates and cameras. I deleted my old number, turned off unknown messages. But the thought of shadowy men in the black sedan still makes me jump. The sheriff's voice still curls in my memory. Towns where no one knows your name. In open roads and late-night stops, anonymity becomes vulnerability. Strangers can offer salvation, or the illusion of it. Always verify what calms your fears and never assume safety in the darkness. Being helped isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's surveillance. And because who knows who's watching, always keep the light on yourself. I was 7 the first time I saw him. We were on our way to my aunt's house in Birmingham when Mom decided to stop for coffee. I sat in the booth, swinging my legs, my flip-flops tapping the vinyl seat. Mom was buried in her paperback, tossing me crayons I didn't ask for. The Waffle House on the highway looked like every other one I'd seen. Bright fluorescent lights, checkered floor, coffee brewing in giant pots, all that familiar comfort. But that day, comfort had a crooked smile. A few minutes after we sat down, the mascot appeared. I'd never heard of a Waffle House mascot, but there he was, a man in a giant waffle costume, cartoon eyes painted on cardboard, a lopsided grin wide enough to swallow a breakfast platter. He waved at me, then shuffled over with a wobble. When he reached our booth, he leaned down low, whispering, "Want to see the secret kitchen?" My heart thudded. Mom kept reading. She didn't notice. My sisters were talking about which syrup tasted best. I just stared at the mask's mouth. It wasn't real. More like plastic stretched too tight. My voice stuck in my throat. I nodded. The mask didn't blink. He held out a gloved hand. I stood and followed. He led me past the dining area, past the greasy, humming grills, to a narrow door near the freezers, the kind I'd seen in TV shows but never in real life. No sign, no handle. He tapped 3 times. The door swung open. Inside, a dim hallway stretched ahead. The lights flickered. Some fluorescent bombs half dead, casting intermittent shadows over patches of concrete. It smelled like bleach and cold steel. "Come on," he urged. His voice came through a hole in the mask, low and raspy, like it was his real voice walled behind layers. We walked in silence, the echo of my shoes bouncing off one bare wall after the next. We reached a heavy door with no latch, just a padded surface. He laid his hand on it and said, "It's more fun inside." My chest squeezed. I shook my head. "No way," I mumbled. He didn't argue. He stepped into the hall and got smaller until he was just a cone of silence behind the flickering bulbs. I ran. My legs pumped fast, banging off walls and tiles, water dripping overhead from a loose pipe. I didn't stop running until I tumbled into the dining room. Mom looked up. "What? Why are you—" I couldn't speak. I pointed. The entrance to the hallway was empty. No mascot, no man, nothing. That afternoon, Mom talked to the manager, big bald guy with a name tag that read Clint. He squinted when I told him what happened, like he saw a ghost. He walked to the hallway, flicked the lights on and off, knocked on the door and said, "Anybody there?" Nothing. He muttered something apologetic and offered me a chocolate chip waffle. I shook my head. My appetite was gone. Mom apologized. She paid the bill and left quickly, her face tight with worry. I stared ahead, the booth cushion indented from my weight, the crayons scattered like witnesses. My sisters asked where I'd been. I said I got water. Mom drove fast back to Aunt's house. I sat in the back seat, legs drawn up, staring out the window at the dark fields. Later, I asked her if it was real. She said it couldn't be. She saw no one in costume. I told her I saw his eyes, unblinking, dark behind mesh. My voice trembled. Mom reached back and rubbed my shoulder but didn't look at me. When I got home, I asked Waffle House corporate online. They said no such thing. No mascot, no secret kitchen, no unmarked hallway. That set my teeth on edge. If he wasn't real, who was I thinking of? That night I lay in bed replaying the hallway in my mind. I heard distant flickers, like lights failing thousands of miles away. I smelled concrete dust and bleach, and I wondered how close I'd come to opening that door. The next time I arrived at that Waffle House months later, I sat at the counter near the window, visible, unescapable. Mom sat across from me, iced tea in hand. The twins were elbow to elbow at a booth, coloring pages numbered 1 to 20. The restaurant was busy, plates clanged, waitresses balanced trays, and a soft country song drifted from the jukebox. I half wanted to ask about the hallway, but changed my mind. Clint came by and asked if I wanted cream in my coffee. I nodded. Whenever I looked up, I expected nothing, but I felt watched. Partway through lunch, a coat rack near the entrance rattled. I glanced. Empty coat rack. My pulse jumped. My sisters laughed at crayons. Mom asked me to smile for a picture. I managed it, though my smile was thin. I returned her phone and she tried again. 3 weeks later, I asked about the hallway again. Clint said it was a service corridor, plumbing access, HVAC maintenance, never used by customers. He tried lighthearted. "We should put up a sign." I nodded. He gave me a plastic smile that didn't reach his eyes. That night, I Googled service corridors and secret kitchens. I learned about hidden passages in restaurants, Blocked areas, maintenance spaces. Some are closed off for health regulations, some are tripping hazards, but none you open with a tap and whisper. None that lead to padded doors in the back. The tokens he gave me earlier? Not there. I'd never received tokens. I dismissed the idea I'd imagined it, but the weight stayed inside my chest. Years passed. I left Birmingham, went to high school, pulled grades up, studied architecture, maybe to draw hallways that made sense. Whenever I ate breakfast out, I always sat facing the door. I never go near hallways I didn't come in through. But every year on the anniversary of that day, I dream about the hallway. I walk past dozens of booths, the diner half empty. I see the mascot slipping back into the kitchen with no one noticing. I see the unfinished hall, the door, the light flickering on my face. And sometimes, I open it. I dream I sit in the chair he left behind, head tilted, silent. I pick up a handful of arcade tickets, endless streams of them, and I watch them turn into pancakes, into waffle patterns, into eyes. Then I wake. I'm 24 now. I've visited plenty of Waffle Houses, travel for work. I walk the halls of old diners, haunted air dim in corners. I once worked at a breakfast chain that had an old hallway behind the restrooms. My staff called it the tunnel. They dared each other to go there for a cigarette. I never went in. I still drive by that Birmingham location sometimes. It looks the same as I remember. Golden lights, grease-sheen windows, booths full of families and truckers. I've thought about asking Clint or corporate about remodeling, if that hallway is still locked. But I never go in. I wonder who that man was. If he really wore a mascot costume. If the unblinking eyes belonged to someone ordinary, or something else. But I know this. Kitchens have secrets. Hallways sometimes lead you back, even when you'd rather stay invisible. Doors don't always say no trespassing in bold. Not all doors should be opened. Even in familiar places, there are hidden paths that aren't meant for curiosity. And sometimes the scariest question isn't, what's behind the door, but what if it's something looking back at you? Friday nights at the Waffle House had a rhythm, an anxious beat that thrummed under the hum of fluorescent lights, the clang of dishes, and the hiss of fryers. Locals, travelers, college kids, and truckers all blended together under greasy ceilings. I'd been working the night shift for 2 years. It wasn't glamorous, but I knew every regular by name and order. Brian, the young college guy, always ordered extra bacon. Lisa, the trucker, wanted a side of grits and hot tea. And then there was Mike. Mike came in every Friday, around midnight or shortly after, depending on how the highway traffic treated him. He'd shuffle in with a small smile, pull out a folded pair of singles from his wallet, always neatly creased, and place them tip-side up in his coffee cup. He liked his hash browns double thick, chili on top, and black coffee. We all called him Hash Brown Mike. He never rushed, never complained, didn't talk much, but he had a calm dignity that cut through the late-night haze. That night started like any other. Collision of orders, clink of plates, sizzling fat. I cleared tables while Marcus grilled hash browns. 30 minutes before closing, the door bounced open with too much force. In staggered a man, shirt wrinkled, eyes wild, smelling of beer and whatever else had lingered in the bottom of a bottle. He bumped a stool and nearly fell, muttering about respect under his breath. When he waved to me for coffee, I handed him a cup but kept my distance. He slurped it noisily, then pointed a finger at Mike, who'd just walked in. Mike didn't notice until the drunk across the bar yelled, "You think you're better than me?" and staggered over. He waved the man off, calm as ever. "You've had enough, son. Go home." That seemed to set him off. He whipped a steak knife from his pocket, shouting. The world burst into slow motion. Marcus dropped spatulas. Customers backed away. I yelled, "No!" as the man lunged toward Mike. There was a sick thud. Mike's body folded in half, meal spilling off the counter. I jumped over the partition and pressed towels against his bleeding side while the cook called 911. He was shaking, whispering about his granddaughter's recital next week. I kept saying, "Stay with me, Mike. You're gonna be fine." The drunk froze as sirens cut through the night. He didn't run, just stood. Let them cuff him. That night, like flames dying down, the restaurant emptied. Cops swarmed, EMTs rushed Mike out. I followed behind, soaked in guilt and adrenaline. I swallowed the lump in my throat until dawn, when the doctors called. Mike was alive. Mike's surgery took all of Saturday. I stayed at the hospital lobby until the sun dragged itself past morning. I flashed my ID, and they escorted me back. His chest was wrapped in white bandages, drains in place, monitor beeping with his heartbeat. I squeezed his hand. How do you tell someone they almost died barring a hero? He looked at me and managed a weak smile. Thanks for saving me, kid. I shrugged, but couldn't stop trembling. He closed his eyes and whispered, I'll tip you double next time. In the days that followed, the diner hummed on as if nothing had happened. But everything changed. Marcus couldn't stop staring at the counter edges where Mike collapsed. Customers asked if I was okay. I told them yes, but I hid the folded singles in my pocket. Mine, or maybe his. The ones he always folded so carefully. Thursday night, I called over Marcus. We scrubbed the counter until the stain bleached out. I refused to clean Mike's seat until after he returned. When Friday came again, and it always does, the Waffle House felt emptier without him. Then the door opened, hesitantly at first. Toward 1:15 a.m., he shuffled in, leaning on a cane. He looked tired, walked slower, talked softer. He returned to his regular seat and ordered the same thing. When I brought his tray, he slid me a single, not folded. A real 20, a crisp bill. Life's too short to count change, he said softly. Just promise me you'll keep doing what you did. I nodded and his eyes glistened. Something strong and human passed in that moment. After that night, nothing reverted to normal. I'd been rattled before, but now I noticed everyone quietly. The college kids who stumbled in, the truckers with tired voices. I took on shift prep early, wiped down covers, checked rear exits, kept my emergency procedures fresh. But I also made time to chat with the regulars, to listen to their stories. Each had a corner of life that mattered. Marcus started calling me night manager when he needed to step out. I'd grown from plate clearer to safety watcher, the one who knew protocols, who didn't panic. I learned more about Mike. He taught 4th grade for 30 years before retiring. He'd lost his wife 2 years ago and spent his Fridays at the diner as much for company as coffee. He played piano at church recitals but grew too frail to travel far. His granddaughter's recital was a big deal. Her name was Emily. He talked about her as if she was the sun in his sky. One Friday I asked him how he felt. He touched the wound scar gently. Lucky, he said, and tired. I nodded, understanding everything you can't see in a person's eyes. Then came a night a few weeks later when the diner nearly flipped again. A minor kitchen fire, grease flare-up, panic. I hit the extinguisher, guided customers out, calmed Marcus. In that moment, I realized resilience wasn't just about reacting. It was about knowing your place in the middle, being the one people looked to. I didn't hesitate. By early winter, my nights at Waffle House felt less like work and more like purpose. I wasn't flipping hash browns. I was holding a spotlight where people found kindness and compassion in the smallest gestures. Mike helped. On Tuesdays, he'd drop off extra gloves or chocolate bars for night crew, leaving them in the store's back hallway with a note, "You matter." One week, his granddaughter's recital rolled around. Emily played the piano beautifully. He texted me from the Waffle House lounge, his words shaky with excitement. She hit the high G, wish you were here. The diner applauded with me over the phone, but that night also came with revelations. I realized I hadn't tipped carefully in weeks, not because I forgot, but because I didn't need to. There were harder lessons too. I saw another drunk guy pushing a cart slurring. I remembered that blade's glance at Mike's skin. The memory tasted like bitter coffee. I stepped forward, calmly, and asked him to leave. He obeyed. I changed his coffee to water and offered him pie. Whatever keeps people alive, I thought. Spring arrived, and with it, change. I'd been promoted to assistant manager. I wore a new name tag, Jordan, on a clean shirt, every shift on time. Mike's surgeries may have slowed him, but he still showed up Fridays. We had a routine now. He'd wait for me to finish counting the drawer, then hand his tip. Always 20, sometimes a folded one too, just like old times. One night, he handed me a small card. On the front, a simple sketch of a diner booth. Inside, his neat handwriting. Thank you for believing when I didn't. For chances, for presents, for kindness. I choked up, because that's a lot to carry inside a staple gun and a coffee cup. The drunk man got sentenced. He faced charges in anger in court and eventually got help. He apologized in court, behind glass, to Mike and to me. Something about the apology was more powerful than the blade, an admission of failure and trust in his better self. Those 5 minutes changed me. They cracked open something in the night, and I stepped through it. Sometimes heroism hides in the ordinary. In late-night diners under buzzing lights, the world feels small. One coffee, one order, one life at a time. Pay attention to the people who show up each week, who leave their folded dollars or $20 bills. You don't know which one might teach you life's lessons or whom you might save. And when you do, count the meaning, not the change. I missed the bus again. It was nearly midnight and the next one wouldn't come for another hour. My phone blinked 2% as it clung to life in my pocket, and the sidewalks had emptied like someone flicked off the lights. I'd walked a half-mile in cold air, staring at street lamps. So I spotted the Waffle House 2 blocks away, still open, still warm, and decided I'd wait there. Inside, it was quiet in a way most diners aren't at night. A waitress in worn jeans swept near the jukebox, eyes half closed. A couple whispered in a booth, heads nearly touching. I ordered toast and water, said thanks, and sat by a window facing the road. Just across the street lay Ravenswood Cemetery, not much more than a couple of rows of flat stones fenced off by iron bars. Local lore insisted weird things happened there, ghostly lights, doors rattling on sleepless nights. I believed none of it. Most were just stories to spook kids. Then I noticed something odd. A white van parked right in front of the gates, engine off, lights dimmed. No one in sight. I stared. That place didn't get traffic at midnight. A minute later, a high scream cut through the hush. Faint, distant, almost melodic in its pitch. Probably one of the local teens spooking themselves, I thought. But I couldn't shake it. I stood, dropped coins, and slid toward the door. I didn't know why I went outside. Curiosity, fear, boredom. It all tangled together. Stepping onto the sidewalk, I cupped my hands against the chill. There was a man kneeling by the second row of graves, digging, with his bare hands. Soil flew up in dark clumps under his fingers. His back hunched low, he didn't seem to struggle, almost as if he was desperate. Then he stopped, slowly turned toward me. I froze. His face looked like he'd been buried himself, dirt caking his hairline, collar, cheeks. But his mouth, it was pulled too wide like a grin held open. He didn't speak, just stared. My heart thudded. I spun and dashed back inside. The door slid closed behind me with a soft thunk. I tapped the latch twice. My body shook without me realizing it. The waitress looked up. Everything okay? I pointed through the window. There's a guy, he was digging in the cemetery. She peered out. The street lamp's glow hit empty asphalt. That van? I nodded. She frowned, walked out to check. I stayed at the window. I saw her step up by the gate, hands on her hips. Then, nothing. When she walked back in, she shook her head. No van, no man. It never moved. I sat down again, mouth dry. She offered me coffee, no charge. I accepted. I kept glancing out the window until I had to leave. 12 more minutes till the next bus, she said. I nodded. After she turned away, I looked again, but the van wasn't parked there anymore. When the bus pulled up, I climbed in, told the driver, "Always check behind you." He laughed and said, Funny kid. The next morning I saw a flash on the local news. A story about Ravenswood. Someone broke in overnight, dug up a girl's grave. Police had no leads, no clear motive. No body part reported missing. Just overturned soil and a nameplate stolen. I caught my breath. The gravestone belonged to a girl, Tara Mills, who died a decade ago at age 8. I'd heard kids at school say she still haunted the place if dared after dark. I replayed yesterday's sight in my head. The man's hands, the soil. I remembered the scream. Tall, desperate, chilling. I texted Mom the link to the news. She didn't reply. At school, rumors buzzed, someone filming their scared friend on TikTok. I didn't say anything. But when I walked home that night, I turned toward Ravenswood. It lay silent, still. My stomach twisted. The third night, I went with my phone's weak flashlight. I didn't tell anyone. I needed to see if he was still there, if he pulled anything else out. I leaned with my palm against the iron gate. The van wasn't there. I breathed deep. I thought I'd go home, chalk it up to imagination. That's when I heard a shovel scraping faintly. I froze. I followed the sound down the side sidewalk and saw it. Fresh dirt dug up. I crouched near a disturbed patch. Beneath the ground, wet soil. No corpse, but a shape. A small box, metal bound. A voice behind me, broken, cracked. "You shouldn't be here." I spun. The man from before watched me from shadows. Mouth too wide, eyes sunken like hollow wells. He held a shovel, blade pointed down. The dirt clung to his sleeves. He didn't look violent, just owning that place. He said softly, "I'm fixing it." He stepped closer. I stumbled back. My flashlight fell and flickered. I ran. When I got home, I locked my door and texted Mom, Dad, anyone. No one answered right away. I barely slept. Next day, the news reported police detained a man near Ravenswood. He'd turned himself in, holding a rusted shovel. He claimed he'd been digging up his niece's memory. You see, she had died, and he needed her bones to move on somehow. He talked of guilt, her screams in the night. Police arrested him. Forensic teams searched the grounds. I watched it all with trembling hands. Did I push that man into jail? Or did I point out someone suffering? I avoided the cemetery after that, took a longer route home. I rode the bus even when I didn't miss it. Some secrets don't die when graves are planted. Curiosity can rescue, but it can also expose broken lives tending old wounds. And when someone digs into the darkness, what they pull out may not be what you expect. But it's still human, still sorrowful, still real. Be careful what you uncover.